taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast. It's April 24th, 2019, and this is your source for news, leaks, and insights about games and the gaming industry. It is the Wednesday evening edition of the show, the first Wednesday show of our new schedule, so it's been interesting switching over to this new schedule, but we're now going live every Saturday morning and Wednesday evening at this time. So thank you for everyone who's able to join us. I know it's a little more difficult for our listeners in Europe, but this should be live for you bright and early when you wake up tomorrow morning. Hello to everyone who's already super active in the live chat. You guys have been chatting and having a great conversation since like almost an hour before we went live. That's fantastic to see. There's no way I can possibly call everybody out. But just shout out to all of you for being so awesome. And I'm here as always with Cybsidian. How's it going today, sir?
It's going good. It is going good. We have some news to talk about today. Oh my goodness, there's some really good stuff. And then generally, just as a personal note, things are getting good. So it's busy. It's crazy busy, but that's to be expected. With the summer season. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's going to be this year. I'm just looking at the schedule. I'm looking at everything going on. I'm looking at all the stuff that's happening. Plus, I'm writing the book, and we're thinking about writing a second book that will actually be out a lot faster. So we're thinking about that. So if you're interested in that, hop over the Discord and you might be able to pry some secrets from our very, 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 very strong fingers. But yeah, this is going to be like one of the best, most craziest years I think I've had in a very long time. So this is nothing but good, but there's incredibly a lot going on. So
well,
yeah.
The channel keeps growing, this podcast keeps growing, and we are really, really super appreciative to all of you who listen regularly, who share it around, who like, who subscribe. Definitely hop over to the Discord, let us know if you're a new listener or if you've been listening a while and lurking in the background and just want to drop in and say hi. We get people doing that every now and then who just drop in and say, hey, I've been listening since, episode 39, and it's great to hear. But anyway, yeah, if you're listening live today, please say hello in the live chat. Send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast. And don't forget to slam that like button. It likes it rough, and it tells us and YouTube that you appreciate this content. By the way, we've basically had confirmation this week that if you don't hit the little notification bell, subscribing is basically meaningless. So if you want to actually get notified when we post content, I guess subscribing's not meaningless, but if you're subscribed to us, our videos will show up in your subscriber feed, but YouTube is only going to notify you once in a while when we post new content. If you want to get if you want to get notified of new content whenever we post it or whenever we go live, make sure you hit that notification bell. So that you get notified of all that, and then hopefully it'll work, although I know for some channels it seems that nothing they do nothing you do will let you get notified of the content that you're actually subscribed to and want to see. So I don't know what YouTube is doing over there, but anyway, we basically had confirmation of that's how it's intended to work. So make sure you hit that subscriber or that notification bell beside the subscribe button. All right, as Cyb said, lots of interesting news this week. We've got some updates on Anthem, which is clinging to life with all of the grace of a beached whale desperately trying to get back to the water. And we also have, there was a leak, a supposed leak about Xbox's E3 lineup, which looks pretty fake, but we're going to go through it and look at that a little bit. But we're going to start off with some interesting news out of CD Projekt Red. And as you can see on the thumbnail there today, CDPR makes it rain. So they are paying out $100 million. $100 million what? Well, I've got subscribers on the brain. Shareholder dividends in 2019. So within a couple months here, they're going to be paying out over $100 million to their shareholders in their second ever dividend payout. Now this is like all economic stuff. I know not all not all of you are going to be interested in this kind of thing, so we're going to try and keep it light on the heavy economic talk. But this is significant. This is interesting for a few reasons that relate to Cyberpunk 2077. But anyway, here's the basic announcement, the basic news that came out today, and I want to shout out No Chesk Serduska, our Discord user who dropped this in our Discord server today and drew our attention to this news, so thank you for doing that. I probably butchered your name, my apologies. But anyway, the basic report is this. The management board of CD Projekt recommended their second dividend payout in history. The company will pay out just over 100 million of PLN, which is the Polish currency, to their shareholders, and that adds up to 93% of their entire profit for 2018. So they're paying out a substantial amount of cash to their shareholders. And in a sec, Cyb is going to be diving into what that means as far as what's coming from CD Projekt Red. But they had a really good year in 2018, despite record high expenditures on the stuff they're developing. They made really good sales, so they have they had a lot of income, a lot of profit, and so they've decided to pass that on to their shareholders, and so that's really interesting. That's really good to hear. So who knows? Maybe story-driven single-player games are the way to go. I don't know. I wonder if there's some lessons learned in the industry from this. But what do you think this means, Obsidian, in terms of what does this mean as far as when they might be releasing CD Projekt or Cyberpunk 2077 and upcoming projects?
Basically, this means that we're going to be seeing something right away. Is ultimately what this means. You don't do this unless you're expecting a severe uptake in money coming in. And if they don't have anything to show, then this would be a very foolish decision, to the point where it's like, yeah, somebody would be fired over this if this decision was made without like them planning on recouping the cost in some way, shape, or form. You just don't do this willy-nilly without, a plan. And they're not stupid. They're not stupid people. They're very smart. They know exactly what they're doing. Unfortunately, they're part of this company that's open to the public, so they do end up forecasting things themselves through their financial reports, their decisions. Like, if they were not a publicly traded company, we would not have heard that they're working on another project that's planning to come out in the next 2 years. We just would not have heard about it until probably about a year from now, or maybe a teaser coming up, in this E3. Those are completely possible things that they would have done normally, but because they're a financial thing, we knew about this as far back as well over a year ago, when they had the one thing where they were like, yeah, we're working on additional new we're working on additional new projects. At the time, they didn't specify there was a new IP, and we still aren't convinced that this is a new IP. There's still a chance that it's not, but we know that this, in the last financial meeting, which just happened a few months ago, we know that they put money aside to buy a new IP. So whether or not that's the secondary project that they're working on right now, again, still up in the air, has not been confirmed. Things can change. We want to be careful at how much stuff that we guarantee as far as like raw information, hardcore confirmations on stuff, because like we discovered with the whole multiplayer and first third person thing, it's like they have a decision and those decisions can change, and we've always said that, but some people forget that, to include that when they quote us. So we want to make it crystal clear. They are potentially working on a new IP that we might, and this will feed into the Xbox leak info later, which we may or may not see in the next 12 months. But we know that they're dropping something significant within the next 12 months, within the next fiscal year for them, which, I mean, I don't know if you know what they've been working on, but it kind of rhymes a little bit with, Cyberpunk 2077. Oh wait, sorry, it doesn't rhyme with Cyberpunk 2077. It is Cyberpunk 2077.
They're only working on the most anticipated game in gaming history.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's very interesting, and it's great to see that they are doing so well, that they're doing so well financially, and yeah, that's about all there is to say about that, I guess. It's good to see that they're doing well. I mean, we're very much in favor here of the story-driven RPGs and that kind of a thing. Live service is becoming just such a dirty word in the gaming industry. It is. It's,
Well, actually, let me just explain why this is actually really, really important. Like why this is good. So not all companies pay out dividends. Not all stockholder companies do. Some do, some don't. Some have weird ways of doing it. It's the same thing with like Control. If you own stock in a company, doesn't always necessarily mean that you get to vote on any of their policies or things that they're doing. Sometimes you can, sometimes they can't. Stocks can be broken up into voting blocks, and some voting blocks, if they're not big enough, do not get a vote on certain things, on a lot of core things. Some of them do. This is how companies can technically sell out more than a controlling share of their stock. You know, they could sell like 77%, but if they break up that 77% into voting blocks and then play politics with it and then cut out, most everybody else, when it comes down to actions by the board or decisions by the stockholders, they still control a primary controlling source. But this is also how you end up getting like hostile takeovers and stuff like that, because certain blocks can buy out other blocks, and then they can form even bigger voting blocks. And trust me, it's insane. But what CDPR does, and why they pay out dividends, and why they go out of their way to make their stockholders happy, is so that the stockholders do not show up and say, "Hey, we want you to add microtransactions because microtransactions are the new stuff." Like, I mean, this stuff is like, it's like a crazy awesome, like, I keep wanting to say like some drug names or some like alcohol stuff, but then I realize it would probably get flagged by YouTube. So it's just a crazy party thing that they absolutely want to have. When the stockholders come forward and say, "Hey, give us this thing," and CDPR says, "No, you're crazy. We're not doing that. We're sticking with what we feel is best. We're making a good product. We're putting it out there in the way that we feel that the product deserves to be put out there, and respecting the gamers who pay us their money, which ultimately is what makes you money as stockholders. We're not going to, mess around with that. We're not going to screw that up." And this is really, really good to point out, because this means that, they do have the trust of the stockholders, because they continue to get paid out regularly. They continue to get the money that they've wanted to, that they want, because that's why you invest in these companies to begin with. So ultimately, this is a great sign for them, but it means that they're still, the biggest, most important thing is they are controlling the narrative. They're controlling the direction. They're controlling the overall feel of the company. And with the current people that are in charge, that's a great thing. It's a perfectly marvelous thing.
Awesome. Excellent. And that is really good to hear. So CBA12334 says, "You guys watch Endgame?" No, not yet. Don't anybody dare spoil it.
Don't spoil it.
In fact, I want our most loyal listeners to put fake spoilers in the chat right now, so that if anyone puts in real spoilers, we won't know what they are. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing it on Sunday, so I got 2 podcasts to get through before without spoilers before I can see it. So
yeah.
Let's hear your fake Endgame spoilers, everybody. If there's any good ones, I'll read them out. All right. Anything more to say about Cyberpunk then? Should we just?
Well, overall, it's like this is generally good news. This also means that, so there was an article brought up recently talking to, we talked about it on the community podcast, where it's like, hey, things are changing within the game. I hate to spoil something for most people here. The FPS genre of shooting people with guns is extremely limited in the form of gameplay that you can experience. I'm not insulting anybody. Please don't get upset at me. Please don't get mad. In the realm of gameplay, games that feature you shooting other things with a gun or with something that looks like a gun is pretty universal. The experience can be altered in the way that timing works, in the way that, health, and the way that you can interact with like an environment in certain ways. It is not the difference between doing a 4X type, Civ game versus a unit control Jagged Alliance game. These are just things that don't exist as far as like the differences go. In Civ to any other game like Jagged Alliance, there's so much different types of gameplay and things to do and gameplay to create. When they put out the announcement that, hey, we're really going in to really change up the shooting system, some people are like, oh my goodness, they've completely revamped it. You're still going to be taking a gun and shooting it at people.
Yeah, I think the bullets still come out of the gun and you aim them at the enemy.
Yeah, the gameplay, yes, there were certain issues that they were running into, and they really let this know. It's like the curving bullets, the fire shooting through environmental stuff, the how stealth is impacted, and as we covered over a year ago, they were hiring a lot of stealth people. They did a bunch of hiring right after E3. They're definitely going to try and make the game not just a boring shooter, right? So obviously they're making improvements, and we said that the gun play looked a little on the dryish side, not by any means not as bad as a lot of other titles are, right? But there was definitely some room for improvement. That's more what they were alluding to, is the fact that there's tons of improvements made.
Yeah, when I hear that,
AI tweaks and stuff like that for the people that you're playing with, it is completely and totally more or less the direction that they needed to go, that they said they needed to go. That's what they're doing. So don't freak out too much by the concept that there's, again, we heard it from other people. Game is going to be delayed until 2021. Magically they're going to work on by these ideas and these people. They're saying so the game is going to be in development for another 18 to 24-ish months, and during that time they're going to polish Cyberpunk, and then they're magically going to have another game that's basically ready to go out the door and finish and polish that within the next 2 months. Again, game releases don't work like that, guys. It really doesn't work like that. You don't have a single studio that's making a ton of stuff put out 2 games in the span of 3 months. That just doesn't work. So the concept or the idea that this is being delayed until late 2021 is really dumb.
And when I hear that they're revamping and improving the combat system, then it that's one system within a very complex game. And so when I hear that, I think they're making tweaks, they're making optimizations and improvements. They're not revamping the entire. It's not like they're okay, we're going to scrap all these smart weapons and switch to medieval combat type stuff. Obviously, that's not something that ridiculous. So, yeah, it sounds like, okay. I mean, it's been a year now. I mean, think of all of the improvements that the people working on that specific area of the game could do in a year. That's quite a bit. So, and that's not going to delay the entire game by years and years. So, right on. All right. So, speaking of delaying things for years.
Yeah. Just on the final note there. So as far as what we're saying, just to be 100% clear, we're still expecting this game to be out in the next fiscal year. Not before the next fiscal year hits, which means that we're going to get this game sometime within the next 8 months. I'm still sticking with that. That's not 100%. That's a good 85% chance now. It's getting a little bit higher each time I get access to more information and see new stuff, and I'm able to confirm some of this stuff. Today, this bumped it from the 60% that I've been saying for a while to well into the 80% tile. It's
80% that
that we're going to get this within the next, like, we're going to be playing this by this time next year, guaranteed.
So
guaranteed playing this by this time next year.
Okay, Neon Arcade is asking, was it mentioned that they were specifically tweaking combat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember where? Yeah, I couldn't remember where the specific mention was, but that was one of the complaints that came out of the E3 gameplay reveal. Was that the gunplay, specifically the gunplay, seemed a little slow and needed some improvements.
Yeah.
And so,
especially the first one they showed at E3 that was not shown to the public. It featured the male V, and a lot of people noticed right away. A lot of people were like, they were saying, "Oh no, this is definitely good," but the combat does look a little on the dry side, and they came out and addressed that immediately, saying, "Yes, we're doing, like, as you'll see, we're hiring a lot of people for these positions, and we're making sure that this is one of the big areas that we're improving." So, 100%, we're going to see a lot better combat. I suspect we're going to see some abilities. I suspect that we're going to be seeing more functionality. The biggest thing that I noticed in the gameplay is, like, you were basically just chugging drugs like the whole time, like the little breather thing. It's like every 5 minutes she was breathing that in, and it was like a little bit worse on the other thing. I think they're going to be doing more than just that. Ability gameplay, especially in shooters, really changes things up. It makes it a lot better. If you can, like, especially if you're relying on, like, more commands and stuff like that from your combat companions, like, there's a lot of stuff that's going on there. So, yeah.
All right, and just to quickly recap our opening story, since Simon, 2 questions Randall asked in the chat. CD Projekt Red is paying out 100 million in Polish currency. Whatever it's called, I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's about 30 million, give or take.
Yeah, so roughly 30 million American then.
USD.
Anyway, they're paying that out to their shareholders because they've had they had a really good year in 2018, and despite record levels of expenditures, they did really well for sales, and so things are going really well, which is good. But this also goes to show that they've got something big coming, because you don't just they're anticipating a big injection of money in the future, is what we can infer from this. So that's what that's all about. The zloty, yes, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but the Polish currency. All right. Simon Randall asks, this is old news, isn't it? They said before they're... Oh, you're talking about the gameplay thing. Yeah, the gameplay thing is not new, but the reason we brought it up is because... There's been some reports recently that they've been revamping the gameplay, therefore the game's going to be significantly delayed, and so we're just addressing that no it's not. They've been improving the gameplay, but that's, like, we're talking about something that's not so significant that it's going to cause a huge delay in the game. But anyway, all right. So let's move on to some Anthem news. As I said earlier, Anthem clinging to life with the grace of a dead whale. Or not a dead whale, a beached whale clinging to life, because
I have to adjust your metaphor there. So beached whales do not try to get back into the water.
Well, I'm sure they would if they were capable of moving on their own.
No, it's there's lots of studies been based off this. A beached whale does not have a desire to go back to the water until it's put back into the water. This goes for a lot of fish and a lot of dolphins as well. It seems to be like some kind of a suicidal thing at some moment, or like they've just given up on life. And when they've returned to the water by people carrying them back or pushing them back in, then it's like a cold shock that brings them back to reality. But while they're on the beach, they have no desire to return to the water.
Well, that's depressing. Thanks for putting a huge downer on my evening. Although I wonder if it's because they're not at all programmed to process being out of the water. So I wonder if that has something to do with it. But anyway, so Anthem a little while back laid out this roadmap for the coming year, the coming few months, as far as the new content that's going to be coming for Anthem. So this was all laid out because they released a game that was basically very, very dull, very empty, and but they sort of brought people on with the promise that there's going to be more content coming. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. They laid out a whole ton of things, but it's come out now. Let me just find the Reddit post here. So this was posted yesterday, or within a day, within the past day. Here is an update from Ben, the lead producer, and Chad, the head of live services, on the Act 1 90-day calendar. That's what they called their roadmap for their Act 1 roadmap for what was coming out, as far as upcoming Anthem content. And you can find that on EA's website. But anyway, it turns out, basically, long story short, it's almost all been delayed indefinitely. There's like a couple of things that have come out, and
not indefinitely. It's just like they're not giving it a date.
They haven't put a date to it, is what I mean, and so we don't even know when this is going to be coming out. So, and I just have to point out some of the wording in this post. It's like, why are you even trying? It says, while we have delivered. This is on Reddit, by the way, and this was posted by an official community manager from BioWare. So, while we have delivered on many of the Act 1 features on time, which is very debatable, we are not going to hit all the goals in our Act 1 calendar. Okay, I just want to stop right here. If you hit 10% of your goals and miss 90% of them, is it really accurate to say we've delivered many of them on time, but we're not going to hit them all? Like, who are you trying to fool with this statement? Anyway, we have been prioritizing things like bug fixes, stability, and game flow over the new features of Act 1. Okay, so kind of an explanation there. But anyway, features that are delayed. The Mastery System, the Guilds, Legendary Missions Phase 2, Weekly Stronghold Challenge, Leaderboards, some free play events, and the Cataclysm, which was promised for May, I believe. And this was a big thing. So, what did come out? That's my question.
A bunch of like weak fixes and a handful of other minor stuff. A new kind of dungeon-y thing to do. That's about it. And that's the problem with the game, is that, like, so it had the Edmonton office worked on it for like 6 years, trashed basically most of what they'd worked on more than once. In the last like 9 months, basically slapped a thing together, forcibly kind of delayed it to be out a little over a year in development, and then that was what we got. Back in 2018, we got the trailer. Everybody was like, "Ooh, that's cool! Ooh, that's cool!" But then we realized that it was basically all faked, and at that point, that trailer was like basically their pitch to the CEO of EA, and that's what got made. Now, this has been done to death, and we don't want to beat a dead horse or a dead whale, but in this particular case, this is what's going on. And they had a 61,000 purchase for a cosmetic. That's like all of the money that you make leveling up a brand new account and playing for about a month. So they're free. Everything's free. You could buy everything. That's a joke. At this point, they got called out on it the first time they did it. Then recently, they've gone back and they've done it all again. And this kind of shows that EA is kind of running the house and saying, "Hey, we want money." And they keep thinking that as long as there's a small group of whales playing the game, that it's still going to make money. And partially that's sort of true. You can keep a game running just by having like 10,000 whales play your game. 10,000 whales in a free-to-play game will often pay more than if you had 5 to 10 million people playing the game that are mostly all free to play. It's like that, and that's why the whale system has been developed. It's why we're talking about a lot of whales today. that's just the way the system works, unfortunately, and it works quite well. So that's more or less their thought on being respectful to us is kind of like more or less no.
Yeah, well,
It's really frustrating. It's really, really, really frustrating to see this because this is supposed to be, this was supposed to be this big thing from BioWare, but I think it's kind of good in the sense that it's been the big wake up call, and as long as this continues to receive negative press and negative like player growth, and as long as it keeps on as long as they keep hammering away at them more and more and more, and just trying to make this just get utterly dashed to pieces. As long as this can happen, I think there's a good chance that they might learn from this mistake. Hopefully, EA is bleeding. I was really kind of worried that Apex had saved their greedy little butts, but
it was a flash in the pan, basically.
Yeah, it really flashed hard. I'm trying to dig into some stuff there. Aside from the fact that they paid a ton of streamers to play it and talk it up like it was amazing, they haven't continued with that. So there's been a lot of streamers who are like, "I'm bored. This is no fun. This is not fun anymore. I mean, sure, it's good, but it's just too damn repetitive. I need something that's a little bit bigger. I need something that's got some meat to it." And there's some games that are on the horizon that have that kind of meaty texture that I think some people are looking for. The Division 2 was pretty good, but their itemization and their loot system is just really it's really terrible right now, and it really makes it hard for me to go back to it because it's like, oh, so what do I need to do? Do I get to grind the story? Do I get to experience things? Do I get to try cool things with my friends? No, I just have to grind for gear as fast and as long as I can, and try and muddle a one set together, but with a really minute number of inventory spaces, so you're constantly getting rid of stuff. But then, as it turns out, oh hey, by the time you hit such and such a level, or the next patch or whatever, turns out that thing doesn't work anymore, and now it's time to go back to another thing, which, by the way, you didn't have the room to hold on to, so all of your stuff got scrapped at the same time. So it's like that level of circular stuff. It's not really that entertaining for me. Warframe keeps chugging along, and I really like. I uninstalled Anthem. That's gone. I'm not going back to it. I still have Division installed. We're gonna wait for there's a big patch coming out soon with the raid. I'm really curious to see what the 8-man content looks like. I really hope that they fix the skill power stuff, because that was really fun. That was the funnest thing to do. And then they're like, hey, we're gonna fix skill power. Put out the patch, absolutely murdered every skill power build there was. Just like, oh, you're gonna fix it by nerfing it into the ground so hard that nobody plays it at all.
Gonna fix it by destroying everything. Build it again.
Ooh, it's so aggravating. So, as far as the launch went, there's still people that are having fun with the Division, and that's totally okay. It's just I require a little bit more interaction. I'm still happy with the game, and I still think the launch has gone pretty well. And it's coming into the summer, so it's unhealthy to play any online like MMO or MOBA type thing. It's very unhealthy to play any of those things for more than 20 hours a week. Like, if you can limit it to like 3 to 5, as somebody who's working and doing lots of stuff, that's great. That's really good. But as far as like trying to keep up with the grind, it's like, ugh, don't bother. There's speaking of Path of Exile, we've got a couple of really good kind of isometric adventure games coming out sometime in the next year here too, so that'll be interesting to kind of keep our eye on. But overall, it's like, yeah, this year so far has been pretty dry. A lot of like really bad moves, and then of course 76 from last year. It's like,
yeah,
their big patch came out today. Their next big one, I suspect that it's going to be broken and have a ton of problems with it. I haven't heard anything as of yet, which is like,
They seem to be keeping a lid on things over there at Bethesda.
Yeah, but for the moment, they are, however, getting caught, doing more of this microtransaction stuff, which is really sad. But whatever. But as far as like BioWare and Anthem and EA goes, I'm really disappointed with them. they have got to do something. They have got to improve what they're doing. They've got to make it better. Otherwise, they're just gonna, it's just gonna be bad. It's just gonna be bad for them. And at the moment, they completely deserve it. Absolutely, it's terrible. We hope that Dragon Age gets better, number 4, but they're gonna try and push this thing out. Watch it. They're going to try.
It's another live
it
service.
In the next 18 months.
It's another live service too, and those words are just becoming poison in the industry. Live service games.
There are ways that you can make a decent live service game.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
Nobody's tried. Nobody's doing it. All of the
just
things
like
that
there's a way to prepare pufferfish that won't kill you, but if you don't know what you're doing, then you're gonna end up murdering somebody. So that's what I'm saying. Like they're doing it wrong. If there is a right way to do it, they're just doing it wrong. They're doing it wrong. Bethesda's doing it wrong. Everybody's doing it wrong. Yeah. Everybody just.
And you think by now somebody would have put 2 and 2 together. Part of it is technology. Part of it is the limitation on content that you can stuff into a game, content that you can create. There is this big thing of this big limiter that's hitting them, and unfortunately, studios are not finding ways to get around this. They're just trying to keep up the pace. It's like it's like a lot of these studios start out like a hamster in a small hamster wheel, and they're running and it's moving, and it's hey look, I'm making this thing move, but then the hamster wheel keeps growing in size, but they're still more or less the same small effect, till eventually they're trying to turn a tractor wheel, which is incredibly hard for a single hamster to do. That's essentially what's going on here, is that they could keep hiring and keep hiring and keep hiring, but I mean ultimately eventually it's gonna become a weight unto itself. And even then, you're not going to be able to find a proper way to do it. There are proper ways to do this. There is ways that you can create new and constantly evolving content. Fortnite's a pretty good example of it. I'm really not happy with it. I was going to say,
Fortnite is doing well. And as Yum Lemon Kebab says, Warframe is a live service game. It's doing it well. So absolutely, yes, there are companies who are doing it well. I was being hyperbolic, but it seems like these massive AAA ones, that are just on a scale way above, like comparing Anthem to Fortnite, or comparing Anthem to Warframe. There's just no comparison.
Yeah.
In terms of scale, so maybe it's the scale. Maybe it's a problem with scale. You just can't do it for something that is supposed to be that massive. That's supposed to be such a deep story-driven RPG, supposedly. At that level and budget, maybe there's just too many moving parts to make it work. I don't know. I don't claim to know the answer, but whatever they're currently doing just doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah, and that's a huge effect and problem to it, unfortunately. So we're gonna see where this takes us. Obviously, with BioWare, I really hope that they can figure it out. But part of me realizes that, big companies build themselves up and crush themselves down.
Yeah.
In the gaming market, this has happened over and over and over and over and over again. And we have an interview with the Subverse guys. It's going live tomorrow. We did speak with them about a week ago. We were going to try and edit into kind of a new show, and we were also going to try and do something a little bit different with it. That kind of fell through. So unfortunately, the interview is about it's what we recorded it well over a week ago. So unfortunately, we're a little bit delayed on that. However, it'll still be out tomorrow. So check that out, because it is going to be, it's going to cover some interesting stuff as far as how the AAA industry is impacting and working off of and kind of doing stuff with.
Well, and the main topic of that interview was censorship in games. That's been a big question. But yeah, thanks for mentioning that. That is going live on our channel tomorrow morning. So definitely check that out.
We don't, and we want to say this. We don't necessarily encourage people to go out and buy porn. But in this particular case, this is a very unique case. First of all, I don't necessarily consider this as porn, because there's no actual porn actresses or actors. I don't know if you can call something.
You mean
like obviously?
You mean the fact that it's CG?
Yeah, the fact that it's
all
entirely
animated.
CG. Yeah, it's
I think
like,
we
to me,
should. I think we
we're
should
gonna
put a
have
lid on
discussion
this
about
one.
this later.
Let's put a lid on that conversation for the time being, and let's just move on. But so we interviewed. We wanted to because they were in the news so significantly. We wanted to interview the devs of Subverse, specifically about censorship. So we're not advocating for their product. We're not necessarily disparaging it either. It's up to you if whatever you want to do. But we wanted to talk to them specifically about the censorship topic. But anyway,
So
currently,
anyways, sorry for the digressing there. So that's basically like the skinny on that situation. But basically, it's like I've been talking to a lot of devs this week. Spoke with another one yesterday for an extended amount of time. These people are working on projects that put a lot of the AAA titles to shame, like to absolute shame, and it's shocking to see the level of competence that you have in these small indie studios that are creating small things, and they're doing stuff. Again, we've been looking at another game where it's like 4 guys have been able to do basically in a garage what an entire development studio of 400 plus people are not able to do. It's like that's pretty insanely stupid. Like there, that is just the insanity of that as a situation is mind-boggling. I don't understand how can you have an entire studio that's using the same engine in some cases than these other people, and they're able to create content that's just huge, and then you've got 400 people that can't figure out how to put in a plug? Like, seriously? Like, it's nuts, man. It's nuts.
Well,
so
a lot of the problem that we know with Anthem and also with Dragon Age was a lack of direction, a lack of a coherent direction for the game, which comes down it's a form of mismanagement, really. And so you want to make games on that scale, they've got to have a clear direction. They've got to have, people have to put their own egos and ideas aside sometimes and just work within the system, and that's not always easy for people to do. And so anyway, and this reliance on BioWare magic, that it'll all just come together magically in the last few months of development, which is something that term was coined because that's what would happen with BioWare games. You'd be chugging along, you'd be grinding at it, developing everything and wondering if it'll work, and then in the last stages of development it just kind of cohesively comes together and suddenly it just clicks. And that's fantastic, but I think the reason for that is because you had really good management, really good vision for the game. It's not going to happen otherwise. You can't have everybody going off in a million different directions and expect that to happen.
Ultimately, I think what a lot of these companies are missing is they're missing that like overmind that can sit and monitor pretty much everything at once and make sure that everything's running smoothly at the same time, working towards a common vision. In CDPR, we really see this. They really have a core team at the top that does this. They monitor everything. They're walking around basically like, okay, I see how this is going to fit in here. This is going to fit in there. It's a vision. It leads to some hero worship from time to time, but that's fine because that's what it takes. It takes somebody who's capable of sitting in the middle of chaos, what appears to be chaos. It's like there's lots and lots of old references to, like, if you ever seen how carpets or how those wall fabric art things are made. It's like they're made usually with the surface on the underside, so you can't see it while you're working on it. And then when you're looking at it from the back, it just looks like it's a mess. You're looking at it from the back, and it just looks like nothing. There's just strings and twine and colors everywhere, and you can't get a concept of what the art is becoming. Then once you flip it over, once it's completed, which you can only do once you finished it, then you look at it and you go, oh my goodness, this is a work of art. This is what you requires to run these big companies, and a lot of those people, in some cases, and I know of 2-3 scenarios with big AAA companies where the person who used to do that, who used to walk around, that person knew every person's name in the company. They knew exactly what each of them were working on, and they could sit in the middle of the hive and see how everything was coming together, put it together, feed it into the game, and boom, have it done. Now, what happens, and where you get these mess ups and you get these things that just come out and they're just garbage, it's because the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. The head doesn't know where it's walking into a wall. The feet don't know that it's doing something that it's not supposed to do, and none of these things are communicating properly. So yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
And yeah. So anyways, let's move on to E3 stuff.
Sure. Well, you are listening to the Augmented Reality podcast. We love seeing everybody so active in the live chat. Some great discussion going on there right now. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us and Triple S League fans about all the things we love to talk about. Stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League. Click the link below to join. Be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel. I want to read some of these fake Endgame spoilers. We had some good ones here.
Sure. Now these are fake. These are made
these
up.
These are fake. These were put in the chat earlier by our listeners here.
Fun.
I mean, but the reason I asked for them is, so maybe some of these are real, but you'll never know. It's like that episode of The Office where Michael spreads all he accidentally lets a real rumor slip, and so he spreads a whole ton of fake rumors to confuse everybody.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. And then, anyway.
I'm going to watch that episode again.
It's really funny. Anyways, so first one here. Spider-Man dies. Well, he already died at the end of what's it called? Infinity War, along with half of the other characters. Kirby dies. Fantastic. Didn't know Kirby was going to be there. Nibbles dies. Thor aims for the head this time. I love that one. That's Minty66. There's a couple saying that the Ant-Man meme is real. Tony Stark literally explodes. Spider-Man lives. Yeah. Black Panther turns out to have been from Maine this entire time. They killed Kenny, the bastards. What else? Okay, and the two winners go. The winners here are Russ Hunt and Mark Jackson. So Russ Hunt says Thanos ends up changing his mind after he feels bad, and instead makes all the chicks' clothing disappear. Now we can't watch it on PS4. And Mark Jackson says they use the Infinity Gauntlet as a chastity belt, and it all kind of went downhill from there. You think of all the things that Thanos could do with that power instead of just killing everybody. Instead of killing half of everybody, why not make more food or more planets for people to live on? I don't know. It's weird, but if we pull too many threads on it, I just watched Infinity War again to sort of catch up for Endgame, and I was like, I really like this movie, but there are so many problems with it. There's so many things that just don't make sense. But I mean, that's how it is with all the Marvel movies. But
most of them are good. Most of them are good. Most of them are pretty good. Let me rephrase. Most of them have been great up until the current one, which we haven't seen yet. So that one may be great. It may not be. But for the moment, it's like looking at it overall. I've got to say that they've done a really good job with it overall. We'll see if that job continues. There's been a couple of hiccups here and there, a couple of things that they made terrible decisions on. For some people, may not necessarily agree, but whatever. But yeah, overall, it's like. Anyways,
so there was a supposed E3 leak about Xbox's lineup of what they're going to be showing this year. This was posted on Reddit. It was very quickly removed, but of course there were screen grabs, and it's been spreading around. Now, we'll just say right off the bat that it does not look legit at all, and I mean, we don't even know where it came from.
Yeah.
But also, a guy named Jez Corden, who is a senior editor at Windows Central. So he's connected at Microsoft, and he on Twitter said, I can 100% confirm this is 100% fake. But we wanted to address it because you might see it, and we wanted to kind of get ahead of the news cycle on it.
So, first of all, it's not 100% fake.
When we say fake, we just mean that it's not necessarily from a reliable source. It doesn't mean that everything that's on here is false.
Yeah, because a lot of this stuff is actually 100% accurate. It was really obvious, or things that have already been announced. So, it's like people coming up with this stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, clearly they're looking at stuff that's already been announced. I'll go through the whole list, but here's two of them that immediately are huge, right? That are huge. Halo Infinite trailer. That is obviously going to be coming. Yeah.
Not a big surprise there. Yeah.
Not a big surprise there. Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay. Again, duh. Now the release date, they're saying spring 2020, which again, that fits into what we've been saying. It's like we're going to be playing this game by this time next year. It's not going to be delayed till 2021. It's most likely going to be a fall, but that has not been confirmed yet. Until it's confirmed by them, it's still.
And that's why the fact that they put a date on here at all suggests that this is not this is not real, because they haven't confirmed anything. I'm sure we would hear about it.
Here's something else that is 100% accurate. Sea of Thieves DLC will be coming sometime in the holiday season for 2019. No, really. Are we also going to expect rain to happen sometime in the next, 24 hours across the planet somewhere? It's like, duh. Yeah, obviously. Right? This is a mislead. This is this is somebody who's looking at it going, okay, I'm going to throw this in here and throw this in here and throw this in here. So we've covered some of the things that are obviously true that people just threw in, more Gears stuff, Ori and the Blind Forest. We've got Battletoads. Again, all of this stuff has been covered. Most of this stuff has been covered and has been talked about, or are projects that have been confirmed to be working on. We know that the Outer Worlds is getting more gameplay at the E3 showcase, so that's a lot of these are obvious guesses. What the guy at Windows Central means when he says this is that no, this list is not a leak from inside the company. First of all, and the primary reason for that is that this list does not exist within the company. It exists in its current format. It exists at a few different departments that are very incomplete. Their confirmation for their game plan, that thing's not the first draft is not due as a must have until after May 1st. For presentation, for booking the hall and planning this stuff out, that stuff is not set in stone. And it's certainly not on a list until May. It's compiled early May, then it's more or less sat on, tweaked on, and then you end up getting it as an actual confirmable list by some sources when you get to be 2 to 3 weeks out from the event itself. Up until that point, there's stuff being added, there's stuff being removed, there's stuff being reviewed, they're putting trailers together, they're putting information together. A lot of these studios are working really hard, and they're assessing when they're going to be able to do this, have this stuff completed by. So there's all kinds of stuff going on. That still goes on until May. Do not believe anybody when they say, oh, hey, I've got leaks for this whole list format. The list format doesn't exist. Some of the info on it is true and accurate because this stuff has already been announced, right? But as far as the list format, when somebody says, oh, I got this list from Microsoft. No, you did not get this list from Microsoft. Not at this point. Not right now. If this came in, sometime 3-4 weeks from now, then it would be far more believable. But I can confirm right now that this is just not. A lot of this stuff is complete garbage, because and it was thrown together in a way to make it kind of look like it was true when it's not. Again, a lot of this stuff might be true, and there might be some truth to some of the stuff that we're looking on here that we're going, nah, that doesn't fit. There might be some truth with that. The Dino Crisis, the Brink, the Battletoad stuff. This is all stuff that's been reported on, rumored on. We don't have a confirmation on it yet. So for the most part, obviously, we're just sitting back and we're just going, yeah, there's stuff in the works, and it's gonna come out one way or the other, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's totally acceptable, totally fine. However, for the time being, for the moment that we're sitting in, we can look at this overall and we can say, yeah, this was put together to make it look like it was a leak. It's not a leak because this list doesn't exist yet. And then there's also a lot of stuff on here that's like, the dates have been confirmed, and we know for a fact that, if they knew for a fact exactly when they were releasing Cyberpunk 2077, and as far as like Microsoft being able to have this information, like grunts at Microsoft being able to have this information in a way that they could leak it out, I and a lot of other people would know by now. We sit, day in, day out with our ear to the ground, and anytime there's any kind of a whisper, we've got our ear to the ground and we're able to report on this stuff. The fact that none of us in any of the channels that cover this kind of stuff nonstop has heard anything about a confirmed date in spring, that's just again, I'm not bragging, but it's just, if we haven't heard about it, it hasn't been set in stone, and it most certainly has not been sent over, willy-nilly to someplace. The actual hard date has not yet been confirmed, and will not be confirmed until probably, if they're going to do an announcement, if they're going to do an announcement on the actual day, that will not come in until probably somewhere around May 15th-ish. Sometime in and around that date is when, if they've decided that they're going to go ahead and call it at E3, that's the soonest date that they'll have the confirmation that they're going to go through with it. Possibly maybe a week or two early, so that's still it's still well over a week from now, but definitely not in April. Definitely not in April, because they've been too busy with all the financial stuff to sit down and hammer that kind of stuff out in a concrete way and send it over to Microsoft to have grunts be looking at it, to have it in their inner office and with their core team, knowing that this is their release date. That's been well known for a long time, right? The core team knows their target dates, are planning their target dates, and are ready to go with any one of their several target dates, obviously. But that information is not put out even to their own team members, let alone sending it over to some random person at Microsoft that leaks it. It just doesn't work that way. Confirmation, the confirmation step that requires that it goes through other sources first, and those other sources would have then had it confirmed to other people, and that info would have probably gotten out a lot sooner. And again, that's just for one thing. That's for one thing. To have it for all of these things, no, not possible. So don't believe this leak. It's not a leak. It's not. It's mostly made up with pretty normalized guesswork, right? Recore 2 trailer. The confirm on 2 consoles in 2020. A lot of that stuff is that's purely guesswork.
Yeah, so it's not like it's from a reliable source like Walmart Canada.
Yeah.
So
not like Walmart Canada.
All right, I think that's all.
I should point this out. Even with Walmart Canada, a lot of their dates were wrong. They had some info that was placeholder stuff, and this again, I'm going to re-emphasize this because we did cover the placeholder info on the last podcast. Placeholder dates go out all the time, right? And that's fine, but this is not a placeholder date. What they're claiming here is that this is going to be the stuff that's going to come out on stage with confirmations. That's what I'm saying. Placeholder date, that for marketing partners, that's something a little bit different than announcement confirmations in this kind of a format. And plus the format's all wrong too. It's
it's very wrong. The typos
Yeah.
and everything that's wrong with this is actually quite hilarious. But they've even like, it's got Jedi Fallen Order Holiday 2019. Like, we know the release date for that. The day has been announced. So why it wouldn't be on this is it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I think that's about all there is to say about that.
Well, it's still interesting to look at. Like, definitely look it up. It's kind of a generalized, interesting read, because it's basically just somebody who's trying to do a really good job at speculating on things. So that part of like speculating is fun, but don't like God's green earth. Don't assume that it's correct, because it's.
But it is It is the season for E3 leaks, so you'll want to be on your guard.
They're gonna pick up, and again, we're gonna be trying to bring you guys the best sources of info, the best confirmations. As you know, I had lots of juicy stuff for E3 last year. We nailed pretty much everything on the head. I think about a month and a half beforehand, we had pretty much everything lined up. I think that there was nothing major that I missed out on, except for one thing, which I did clarify was still like, it was kind of an up in the air thing. So I said, don't guarantee this, but this might be the way they go. And this stuff changes day to day. Like, the E3 changes their formats, the plans, the stage show, that all changes up to sometimes the hour before the show starts, which is why there's so much of a mess usually. So, try to stick with it. But again, I should have some decent good hints at some stuff that's coming. But again, we're not flippant with any of our leaks. We don't just chalk this stuff out and hope something sticks to the wall. We only talk about it if we know it. And if we know it, then you know it, because our info is good.
But even, and I mean, as you've often said, we don't even talk about everything that we have, because we don't want to burn any bridges. We also don't want to get anybody in trouble. So, we're very careful with how we handle information here, but we do try to pass on as much of that juicy info as we can to you. All right. This has been the Augmented Reality Podcast. Thank you, everybody, so much for supporting this show, for the great conversation in the chat. If you haven't yet, please slam that like button. And also remember that one of the greatest things you can do, I've seen a lot of people commenting and saying in chat over the past couple podcasts that this show needs more attention. We really appreciate that you think that way. One of the best things you can do is share it with your friends, share it around on your social networks, on your forum communities, wherever you happen to be. If you think we have good info and you want to say, hey, these guys have some good info on this, that's one great way you can help this show to get more attention and to grow. And we really appreciate that you're willing to do that. But please also slam that like button, write comments below YouTube that tells YouTube that you appreciate this content. Don't forget, if you want to be actually notified of our uploads and our going live, you have to hit that notification bell. Otherwise, it'll only notify you sometimes, because apparently subscribing means very little. Thank you to those who also financially supported the show. Old Man Manson and our anonymous Patreon supporters, as well as Captain Dammit, our channel member. Don't forget to like and sub if you appreciate this weekly content. If you're listening after the fact on SoundCloud, iTunes, or Spotify, we appreciate you interacting with the show there as well. And feel free to join us Wednesday nights and Saturday mornings for the live show, where you can interact with us and other listeners and be a part of the discussion. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, tons more quality gaming content. That interview with the Studio FOW folks is coming tomorrow morning. Next podcast is Saturday morning, and we'll get other content out to you in the meantime as well, if we can. My name is Ashenity, and on behalf of Cybsidian, thank you all so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.